She entered their house as a helpless maid with a heart full of hope, but little did she know. The same house would one day break her spirit, destroy her name, and throw her out like a piece of trash. Yet fate was not done with her. Years later, she returned, not as the servant they once mocked, but as the woman they bowed down to. Her name was Anna. She was only 20 when her widowed mother sent her to work as a maid in the home of Mr. David, one of the wealthiest men in the city. They lived in a mansion so big, Anna thought she had walked into a palace. Her mother had whispered to her that morning, "My daughter, endure whatever you see there. Do your work with respect. Remember, this is our only chance to survive." Anna held her mother's hands tightly. "I'll be strong, Mama, I promise," she said, with tears in her eyes. But no promise could prepare her for what awaited inside that house. The first day, the madam of the house, Mrs. Linda, welcomed her with a cold stare. She scanned Anna from head to toe and finally fixed her eyes on the girl's innocent face. You are the new maid. Listen carefully," she said cruelly. "In this house, you do not speak unless spoken to. You eat only after everyone else has eaten. And remember, you are a servant, not one of us." Anna bowed her head quickly. "Yes, Ma," she replied. From that moment, her life became a routine of sweeping, washing, scrubbing, cooking, and endless errands. Yet despite the exhaustion, Anna would smile quietly. She told herself it was only temporary. One day she would save enough to take care of her mother and maybe return to school. At first, everything looked fine. Mr. David was a quiet and respected man. His wife, Mrs. Linda, was strict but always dressed in fine lace and gold. Their 3 children lived like prince and princesses. Sharon and Naomi, the daughters, loved to mock Anna's accent and the simple slippers she wore. Chris, the only son, was arrogant and full of himself, always walking as if the whole world belonged to him. Still, Anna told herself she would endure. But then, one night, something happened. It was late. Anna had just finished washing the dishes and was about to dispose a bucket of water at the back of the house. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned. It was Chris. He was smiling, but it was not a kind smile. It was the kind of smile that made her heart beat fast with fear. "Anna," he said, blocking her way, "why are you always running from me? Don't you know I can make your life easy or even worse here?" Anna shook her head quickly. "Please, Chris, leave me alone. I just want to go and rest," she said in fear. From that night on, Chris's behavior grew bolder. He would brush his hand against hers when she served food, block the corridor and whisper things that made her skin crawl. One day he told her, "You belong to me, don't ever forget that. And when I'm ready, I'll get what I want." Anna wanted to tell Mrs. Linda, but she feared the wicked and arrogant woman would not believe her. She became scared of what could happen any time. And then this very faithful day, her fear came true. Chris called her to dress his room. While Anna was doing her job, Chris held her hand and looked deep into her eyes. Her heart began to race, and she wanted to fight her way out, sensing the danger locking in his gaze. But before she could move, he grabbed her waist tight. She tried to pull away, but he was stronger. He pushed her to the bed and locked the door. He unzipped himself and forcefully pulled off Anna's clothes, leaving her without clothes, and he laid on top of her like a predator wanting to devour its prey. Anna shouted and cried, but her cries were swallowed by the walls of the mansion. No one came to help. That night, Chris forced himself on her and slept with her. Anna's world broke into pieces. The next morning, she woke up with swollen eyes and a heart full of pain. She wanted to keep quiet, but something inside her refused to be silent. She could not carry such a heavy secret alone. So she gathered courage and went to Mrs. Linda. "Madam, please, I need to tell you something." Anna knelt before her with tears running down her cheeks. "Your son forced himself on me last night." For a moment there was silence, but then Mrs. Linda's face turned from surprise to anger. "How dare you," she shouted, "you useless village girl. You open your filthy mouth to accuse my son? Do you know who we are? Do you know the kind of shame you are trying to bring into this house?" Anna sobbed. "Madam, I swear I am telling the truth. I would never lie about something like this," she cried. Her cries attracted the daughters, Sharon and Naomi. They rushed into the sitting room and heard everything. Instead of pity, they burst into mocking laughter. "Look at her," Sharon mocked. "A common maid trying to drag our brother's name into the mud. Who would even touch someone like you?" "Yes," Naomi added with a shaming laugh. "She thinks she is so special. Maybe she wanted our brother and now she regrets it." Their cruel words stabbed Anna's heart. That evening, when Mr. David returned from work, Mrs. Linda quickly told him her version of the story. "David, you will not believe what this foolish maid is saying. She claims our son touched her. Imagine, this is what happens when you bring dirty children from the village into a decent home." Mr. David turned to Anna with hardened eyes. "Is this true? Did you really say such a thing?" Anna fell to her knees again. "Sir, please. I'm not lying. Please, believe me. It is the truth. Chris forced himself on me. I won't lie against your son with something like this." But before she could say more, Chris walked in, acting innocent. "Dad, don't listen to her. I don't know why she hates me." "Maybe she is trying to cover her own shame," he claimed. Mr. David's face darkened. He looked from his son to Anna, then back to his wife. Finally, he shook his head. "You dare bring this kind of story into my house?" he barked at Anna. "You think I will believe you over my own son? Don't you ever—" Before he could even finish, Mrs. Linda's voice roared, "No, you won't stay in this house anymore. Go in, pack your things, and leave my house this very night." Anna gasped. Her whole body shook. "Sir, please, I have nowhere to go. I am telling the truth. Please don't throw me out." But Mr. David was silent. It seemed he had already turned his back. Mrs. Linda's voice rose in triumph. "Leave at once. Pack your rags and get out before I call the guards to drag you out." Sharon and Naomi clapped their hands and laughed as Anna, with trembling hands, gathered her small bag. Her tears poured freely, but no one cared. At the gate, she turned one last time. She looked at the mansion that had once given her hope, the house that had now turned into her place of pain. She hoped, just for a second, that Mr. David would change his mind. But the curtains were already drawn, the lights inside were off. The gates closed with a loud clang behind her. She stood there in the cold night, hugging her bag. The street was empty, the world was silent, but inside her heart a storm was raging. She had no father in the city, no brother, no one to fight for her. Only her mother far away in the village. And she could not even bear to face her with this shame. Her feet moved slowly, carrying her into the darkness. Each step was heavy, as though the ground itself was swallowing her. She whispered through her tears, "God, why me? What did I do to deserve this?" She cried from the deepest part of her heart as she kept asking herself that question. But she had no answer. Only pain, only silence. She kept wandering the streets that night like a lost child. The world around her was really silent, and inside her shame and fear roared. Her small bag felt heavier than a sack of stones, and her legs trembled as she walked with no idea where to go. When the first drops of rain began to fall, she ran to the veranda of a small shop and curled up there. The cold night bit into her bones. She hugged her knees, fighting back tears. But still, the tears wouldn't seem to stop falling. "Mama, what will I tell you now?" she whispered into the darkness. By morning, the shop owner chased her away. She moved from street to street, her slippers broken, her face pale from hunger. Sometimes kind strangers gave her a piece of bread or a little money, but most people pushed her aside, calling her a beggar. Anna thought about returning to her mother in the village, but shame tied her legs. What would she say? That she went to work in the city but came back broken? That she was thrown out like trash? No. She couldn't bring more sorrow to her poor mother, who had already suffered enough, so she chose to survive on her own. She began washing clothes for women in the neighborhood. They paid her little, but it was enough to buy Gary and sometimes beans. At night, she slept on a mat in the corridor of a woman's house who pitied her. Life was hard, but at least she was alive. Weeks passed, then months. One morning, Anna woke up feeling sick and weak. Her stomach twisted and her legs shook as she tried to stand. At first, she thought it was hunger. But when the days turned into weeks and her body began to change, she realized the truth. She was pregnant. The moment hit her like thunder. She sat on the floor, staring at her trembling hands. No, this cannot be happening. Tears rolled down her face. The shame, the fear, the pain, it was too much. Her mind screamed, "What will I do now? How will I raise a child on the street?" For weeks, she hid her condition as best as she could, wearing big wrappers and keeping quiet. But her strength failed her. The washing became too hard, the hunger too sharp, and the sickness too much. One afternoon, as she struggled to fetch water, her body collapsed. When she woke up, she was in a small clinic. A kind nurse bent over her. "My dear," the nurse said softly, "you were lucky to survive, but I am sorry. You lost the baby." Anna's chest heaved as tears filled her eyes. She turned her face away, looking into the wall helplessly and too broken to speak. The nurse touched her shoulder gently and said to her, "Do not cry too much. Life still lies ahead of you. God saved you for a reason." But Anna's heart was heavy. She felt cursed, unwanted, and empty. For many weeks, she lived in deep sorrow. Every night, she cried deeply, asking God why her life was full of pain. Sometimes, she even wished she would not wake up in the morning. But little by little, something inside her refused to die. She remembered her mother's words the day she left for the city. "Anna, no matter what happens, do not give up. Even if the world rejects you, do not reject yourself." Those words became her strength. Anna wiped her tears and decided to fight again. She went back to the market and begged women to let her sell tomatoes for them. She carried loads on her head. She even swept shops. Slowly, she began to save small money. One day, as she was sitting by the roadside frying a kara with the little beans she bought, a fine woman in a car stopped. She rolled down the window and looked at Anna carefully. "Young girl," the woman said, "you look too young to be suffering like this. Why are you here alone?" she asked. Anna lowered her eyes, feeling ashamed. "Madam, I am just trying to survive," she answered. The woman looked at her for a moment, then gave her some money. "Use this to help yourself. Do not give up, my dear. Life can still change." Anna's eyes filled with tears for the kindness. "Thank you, madam. God bless you," she told the woman. That day, a small fire lit in her heart again. She told herself, "If strangers can believe in me, then I will not give up on myself." She began working harder. She fried a kara daily, sold more food, and saved every little money. Her business grew slowly. People in the market started to notice her. They said, "This girl is strong. She doesn't give up." Years passed. Anna was no longer the helpless girl who had been thrown out of the mansion. She was still poor, but she had built a small name for herself in the market. People respected her courage, but deep inside she never forgot the night that destroyed her life. She never forgot Chris's cruel smile. She never forgot Mrs. Linda's insults, and she never forgot the silence of Mr. David when she begged for justice. One Sunday morning, as she wore her neatest dress and went to church, she prayed for strength, for peace, and for a better tomorrow. After service, she stood outside waiting for transport. Then she heard the sound of a car horn. She turned, and a shiny black Jeep stopped in front of her, and surprisingly, 3 familiar figures stepped out. It was Sharon, Naomi, and Mrs. Linda. They were dressed in expensive clothes, their jewelry was shining, and their shoes were sparkling. The years had only made them prouder, sharper, and richer. When their eyes fell on Anna, a slow smile spread across Sharon's lips. She folded her arms and laughed. "Well, well, look who we have here, the useless maid who once tried to bring shame to our family." Naomi mocked. "So this is where life has left you? I heard you also sell a kara in the market. I told you, Anna, you are nothing but a rag." Mrs. Linda stepped closer, her eyes cold. "Listen to me, girl. I warned you years ago, and I will warn you again. No matter what, make sure you keep far from my family. You are not our level, and you will never be." Anna's hands shook, but she refused to bow her head. She looked straight at them. Tears of the pain from all these years filled her eyes, tempting to fall, but she tried hard to push them back in. She summoned the courage to respond, even though her voice shook. "Madam, life is not finished yet. Tomorrow is bigger than today, and one day, you will remember my words." She turned and walked away, feeling hurt but still strong and courageous. That night, she couldn't sleep. Their mocking laughter rang in her ears, but so did her own words. Tomorrow is bigger than today. The next morning, she woke up early and went to the market. She poured her anger into her work, frying akara with fire in her eyes. Her food became more popular. People would say that Anna, her akara tastes different, she's really good. Months passed. With her savings, she rented a small wooden kiosk and expanded her food business from akara to rice and stew. Slowly, she became a known face in the market. People respected her determination. But fate had more in store. One hot afternoon, Anna was busy serving plates of food when a black Jeep stopped in front of her stall. She thought it was a random customer until she saw the door open. Her heart almost stopped. It was Mr. David. Her hands shook so much she almost dropped the spoon. She froze, staring at him as he stepped out of the car. He looked even more handsome, and his presence was still powerful. He looked at her for a long time before speaking. "I know this face," he said slowly. Anna swallowed hard. "Good afternoon, sir," she greeted. Mr. David's eyes widened. "Anna, is it truly you?" Her lips trembled, and she gave a small nod. For a moment, there was total silence between them. Then Mr. David sighed deeply. His shoulders felt heavy. "My God, after all these years. Anna, you are alive." The word struck her heart. Alive. Yes, she was alive, but not because of him. She wanted to scream, "I am alive, but you killed me that night with your silence." Instead, she said nothing. Then Mr. David looked at her stall, at the steaming pots of food, and at the customers eating happily. He shook his head slowly. "You built all this by yourself?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Anna replied quietly. His eyes softened. "You are stronger than I thought." Anna did not reply. Pain and anger swirled inside her. She remembered the night he believed his son and wife over her. She remembered the gates slamming shut behind her. She wanted to hate him, but she could not deny the sincerity in his eyes now. "Anna," David said, his voice heavy with guilt, "I wronged you. I should have listened to you that night, but I failed you, and I have carried that guilt every day." Tears burned Anna's eyes, but she blinked them away. "It is too late, sir. What is done, she whispered. "No," he said quickly, "it is not too late to make things right. And I will make it right this time. Let me help you now, please." Anna's chest rose and fell quickly. She wanted to push him away or even reject him as he once rejected her, but something in his tone stopped her. From that day, David began visiting her stall often. At first, Anna was cold and distant, but gradually she saw his efforts were real. He brought friends to eat at her stall. He gave her advice on how to manage her money. Sometimes he even left extra cash with her, saying, "Use this to buy more stock." Her business grew faster than ever, but with growth came whispers. People in the market began to talk. Why does Mr. David visit that food seller so often? Could there be something between them? The rumors soon reached Mrs. Linda's ears. One evening, Anna was cleaning her pots when a car screeched to a stop in front of her stall. Mrs. Linda stepped out, her eyes blazing with fire. Sharon and Naomi followed, their faces twisted with anger. "So it is true," Mrs. Linda hissed. "You are still trying to destroy my family. After all these years, you couldn't stay in the gutter where you belong." Anna's hands trembled, but she stood firm. "Madam, I am not destroying anything. You did what you wanted, right? This is me, and I am only working to survive." Sharon scoffed. "Survive? With my father's money? Do you think we don't know what you are doing?" The words cut deep, but Anna clenched her fists. "I built this with my own sweat. Nobody gave me anything, and not your family." Mrs. Linda stepped closer. Her voice was sharp. "Listen to me, Anna. Stay away from my husband. If I ever see you near him again, I will finish you with my own hands." Her voice shook the air. The market women nearby gasped and whispered, watching the drama unfold. Anna's heart raced, but she refused to bow. She raised her chin and looked Mrs. Linda straight in the eye. "You can threaten me, but you cannot stop what God has written. One day the truth will speak for itself." Mrs. Linda slapped her across the face so hard her ears rang. The daughters pulled their mother away, and they stormed off, leaving Anna shaking with anger and pain. That night, Anna sat alone in her small room, her cheeks still burned from the slap. Tears fell, but her mind was clear. Enough, I will not keep running from them. If God has brought Mr. David back into my life, then maybe it is for a reason. Maybe this is my chance to set things where they belong. Weeks passed. Mr. David continued supporting her quietly, ignoring his wife's protests. One faithful evening, he invited Anna to his office. When she arrived, he looked nervous, almost shy. "Anna," he cleared his throat. "I cannot hide it anymore. The more I see you, the more I realize how much I admire you. You are strong, honest, and not like that disrespectful and arrogant thing I call a wife. You are different, and you survived what would have killed many. But I've grown to care about you." Her eyes widened. "Sir, what are you saying?" He took a deep breath. "I am saying I want to marry you. I want to make things right with you." The words fell like thunder in her ears. Anna's heart stopped. Marry? The same man who once threw her out? The same man whose son destroyed her life? She stepped back, shaking her head. "Sir, this cannot be. Your family will never accept me." He moved closer, his eyes firm. "Then they will learn to accept. I will no longer live by their lies. I want peace, and I find it only with you. Please, Anna, say yes." Anna's lips trembled. Her mind was torn between fear and hope. She thought of Mrs. Linda's threats, Sharon's insults, and the whole family's cruelty. Could she really step into that house again? But this time, not as a maid, but as their madam. Before she could answer, the door burst open. Standing there was Sharon. Her face was red with fury, and beside her was Mrs. Linda, her eyes blazing like fire. The office became deadly silent. Sharon's high heels clicked against the tiled floor as she stormed inside. Her eyes burned with rage. Mrs. Linda followed behind, and her voice was sharp. "So it is true," Sharon shouted, pointing at Anna. "Father, you have something to do with this wretched thing, a maid that our family threw out like dirt." Anna froze. Her heart pounded like a drum. She wanted to speak, but her lips refused to move. Mr. David stood firm. His voice was calm but strong. "Sharon, respect yourself. This is not your matter. This is between me and Anna." "Not my matter?" Sharon screamed. "You want to disgrace this family in front of the whole world. You want me to call this thing family? Never. It will never be me." Mrs. Linda stepped forward with a hardened face. "David, have you lost your senses? How can you even think of such a thing? After all the shame she tried to bring upon us years ago, after the lies she told about my son." Anna's chest heaved. She finally found her voice. "I did not lie. I told the truth, and you all turned your backs on me." Mrs. Linda's eyes flashed with fury. "Shut your mouth. You are nothing but a common girl who wants to destroy a decent family." But Mr. David raised his hand. "Enough, Linda. Enough of your lies. I know the truth now. I should have listened years ago. But I let pride blind me. That night I saw guilt in Chris's eyes, but I ignored it because of you. I failed Anna, and I will not fail her again." The words hung heavy in the air. Sharon gasped, covering her mouth. Mrs. Linda staggered back, her lips trembling. "David, you dare speak against your own son?" Mr. David's voice was steady. "I will speak against lies, no matter who carries them." He turned to Anna, and his eyes softened. "Anna, you have suffered enough. Let me give you the life you deserve." Tears filled Anna's eyes. She had dreamed of justice, but she never imagined it would come like this. But the battle was not over. Mrs. Linda hissed like a snake. "You think you can throw me aside for this girl? You will regret it, Namdi. I swear you will regret it." With that, she stormed out, dragging Sharon with her. The door slammed so hard that the windows shook. The days that followed were filled with storms. Mrs. Linda spread rumors everywhere. She told family friends that Anna bewitched David. She whispered lies that Anna was chasing wealth and power. Sharon fueled the fire, calling Anna names in public and disrespecting her whenever they crossed paths. But Mr. David stood firm. He called his lawyer. Within weeks, divorce papers were served to Mrs. Linda, but she refused to give in. Anna could hardly believe it. She wanted to run or even hide from all the drama. But each time she tried to withdraw, David held her hand and said, "Do not be afraid. You are not alone anymore." Then came the wedding day. It was a small, dignified ceremony. Anna's eyes shone with tears as she walked down the aisle. Not as a maid, not as a beggar, but as a bride. Mr. David stood waiting. He felt happy for the first time in years. Some guests whispered in shock. He married a maid, can you imagine? Others shook their heads with jealousy, but Anna held her head high. For the first time in her life, she felt seen, valued, and honored. When the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, Anna's tears spilled freely. Her life had turned in a way she never imagined. But peace did not last long. After the wedding, Anna moved into the mansion. The same gates that once shut her out now opened wide for her. The same guards who once ignored her now bowed and said, "Welcome, madam." It felt like a dream, but inside the mansion, war was waiting. Sharon refused to accept her. She slammed doors, insulted her openly, and even refused to eat at the same table. "Father, I will never call her mother," Sharon spat one day. Mr. David's voice thundered. "Then do not eat my food, Sharon. As long as you live under my roof, you will respect my wife." Still, Sharon's hatred only grew. Naomi, the second daughter, was quieter. She watched Anna carefully, sometimes with curiosity, sometimes with jealousy, but she was not as fiery as Sharon. And then there was Chris. He had been away studying abroad, but news of his father's new wife reached him. One hot afternoon, he returned, stepping into the mansion with his usual arrogant walk. When his eyes landed on Anna sitting at the dining table, his smile disappeared. His jaw tightened. "You," he barked. "What are you doing here?" Anna looked straight at him. Her heart was steady. "This is my house now," she responded. Chris's hands balled into fists. He turned to his father. "Dad, what madness is this? You married a maid, my maid." Mr. David's voice was calm but sharp. "Watch your mouth, Chris. She is not your maid. She is my wife. And from today, you will respect her as madam of this house." Chris's laugh was bitter. "Never, I will never bow to her." Anna turned to him. Her voice was quiet but strong. "You may not bow today, Chris, but the truth always wins. And when it comes, you will bow, whether you like it or not." For the first time, the usual arrogant Chris had no reply. He stormed out with a red, angry face. But Anna's words would soon come true, in a way none of them expected. Because hidden deep in Mrs. Linda's past was a secret she prayed would never see the light of day. The secret about her so-called son, Chris. As the day went by, the mansion was no longer quiet. Since Anna became madam of the house, tension lived in every corner. Sharon walked around with fire in her eyes. Naomi watched silently like a shadow, and Chris hated her most of all. He refused to greet her. He refused to sit at the same table. Every day, he spat cruel words at her. "You think you're somebody now. Don't fool yourself, Anna. You're still that poor girl who begged for food on the street." Anna never replied with insults. She only looked at him calmly and said, "One day, Chris, the truth will speak." Those words made his anger burn hotter, but Anna had learned patience. She knew that life had a way of exposing hidden secrets. And soon the secret Mrs. Linda had buried for years began to shake the mansion like thunder. It started with an argument. One evening, Naomi was in her mother's room when Mrs. Linda whispered angrily, "Your father is a fool. How can he disgrace me with that girl? I gave him children. I gave him everything." Naomi cut her off. "Mum, stop shouting. You know Dad will hear." But Mrs. Linda, in her anger, forgot herself. She cried out, "No, I won't. He's weak just like you. You're never fierce like your sister, Sharon. Both of you irritate me. That is why I never gave him a son, because he's a weakling. Yes, and that's what you're too." The words fell like stones. Naomi froze. "Mum, what are you saying?" she asked. Mrs. Linda covered her mouth, realizing too late what had escaped, but Naomi's eyes widened in shock. "Are you telling me Chris is not Daddy's son?" Mrs. Linda grabbed her daughter's hand. "Keep your voice down. Nobody must ever know. It was only a mistake with the gateman years ago. Chris came from that. But if David finds out, I am finished. Do you hear me? Finished." Naomi's chest rose and fell quickly. She stared at her mother as if seeing her for the first time. Even if she wanted to keep shut, the insults her mom just showered on her tore her and made it even more hurting. But Anna had already overheard everything. She had been walking down the corridor with a tray when the voices reached her ears. She stopped. Her heart raced and her eyes widened. The secret that would change everything had just revealed itself. Days later, during dinner, the storm finally broke. Chris insulted Anna again in front of everyone. "Father, why don't you open your eyes? This lady is using you, can't you see? She's a curse to this family. She doesn't belong here." Mr. David slammed his hand on the table. "Enough, Chris. I will not allow you to insult my wife in my house again." Chris stood, pointing at Anna. "You call her your wife? Then I swear I am not your son." The words stunned the room. Sharon gasped. Naomi dropped her spoon as if preparing for this moment. Mr. David frowned. "What do you mean by that?" he asked. Chris stammered, realizing he had spoken out of anger. I... But Naomi could not hold it anymore. She jumped to her feet. "Tell him, Mom. Tell him the truth. Chris is not his son." The room went silent. Mr. David's face turned pale. He turned slowly to his wife. "Linda, what is this child saying?" he demanded. Mrs. Linda shook her head wildly and spoke. "David, don't listen to her. She doesn't know what she is saying." But Naomi's voice grew louder. "No, Dad, I heard it from her mouth. Mom said Chris is the son of the old gateman, not yours." Chris's mouth dropped open. He looked at his mother in horror. "Mom, is it true?" The truth hung heavy in the air. Mrs. Linda's lips trembled, but she could not lie anymore. Tears spilled from her eyes as she whispered, "Yes, it's true." Mr. David staggered back, his hand wrapped around his chest. His voice shook with anger and pain. "Linda, you mean all these years? All these years I raised someone else's son, and you never told me?" Mrs. Linda bowed her head, crying. "You're this evil, and you had the guts to throw Anna away when your son assaulted her? The both of you are devils. And you don't deserve to be in this family." Mrs. Linda fell to her knees. "Forgive me, David. I wasn't thinking right. I was foolish. Please don't throw me away." But it was too late. The damage was done. Chris's legs shook as he spoke. "So all my life I lived a lie. Dad isn't even my father." Mr. David turned his face away and responded in a cold voice. "Do not call me your dad again." Chris's knees gave way. He fell to the floor. Tears streamed down his face. For the first time, the proud and arrogant young man bowed his head, not out of respect, but out of shame. Anna's eyes softened as she looked at him. The same boy who once destroyed her life now sat broken before her. She whispered quietly, "Did I not tell you, Chris? One day the truth will speak." That night, Mrs. Linda and her son, Chris, were thrown out of the mansion. Sharon and Naomi wept, but they knew there was nothing they could do. Mr. David sat in the sitting room, his hands shaking. He turned to Anna. "You see why I call you a blessing?" he asked calmly. "The truth that was buried for years has finally come out, and it came through you. Anna, you were meant to be in my life." Tears filled her eyes as she nodded slowly. For the first time in years, Anna felt peace. The same house that once threw her out now called her madam. The same people who mocked her now bowed their heads in silence. 1 week later, she traveled back to the village. When her mother saw her arrive in a fine car with guards opening the doors, she almost fainted. "Anna, my daughter, what is all this?" Her mother panicked. But Anna ran into her mother's arms, crying, "Mama, God has done it. The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. You will not suffer again." Her mother wept and laughed at the same time, holding her daughter tightly. After the visit, Anna brought her mother back to the mansion. The gates that once pushed her out now opened wide for both mother and daughter. The maids bowed, the guards saluted, and Anna's mother stepped into the big house, her heart swelled with joy. That night, they ate together at the dining table. Mr. David sat at the head, Anna by his side, and her mother smiling with tears in her eyes. It was a picture Anna never thought she would see. The maid who was once disgraced was now madam of the mansion. The girl who once cried at the gate was now the owner of the house. Truly, tomorrow was bigger than today. My besties, life has a way of turning tables. Those who mock you today may bow before you tomorrow. Those who push you out may one day open their doors wide for you. Anna's story reminds us that no matter the pain, no matter the shame, the truth will always rise. And when it rises, it cannot be hidden. At Roots of the African Tales, we believe stories like this carry lessons that shine light on our own journeys. Did this story touch your heart? If it did, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with friends and family. Click the like button to support Roots of the African Tales and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Remember, your own story is not over. Tomorrow is always greater than today.